When Liu Ruyan proposed to me at the family dinner, my skin crawled. Subconsciously, I looked down at the plane ticket in my pocket. Just as I was about to reject her in front of her elders, a loud splash cut me off. It was Gu Balin. He had fallen into the pool, desperately screaming for help. This drama queen had stood between us for years. I used to despise his fake manipulative ways, but today I was actually grateful. Slipping away in the chaos, I fled the villa and boarded my flight. Gu Balin is the brother of Ruyan's deceased first love. On his deathbed, the guy begged her to look after his little brother. That fave lasted 9 years. Meanwhile, Ruyan and I have been together for 7 years, meaning this guy has stood between us the entire 7 years. At first it was fine. He was a trainee in Korea and Ruyan was a top star. He only called each other. But once his group disbanded and he returned, he completely wedged himself into our relationship. At first, Ruyan would explain that he had just returned, had no friends and needed her guidance. As his older sister, she had to help, but as time went on, she stopped explaining altogether. Honestly, I had given up on her, but just as I was about to call it quits, she beat me to the punch and said, "Let us get grand wedding." I was thrilled, not because of the luxury, but because she was finally introducing me to the world and acknowledging our relationship. I waited 3 weeks, but instead of our wedding, I watched her propose to Gu Balin on live television. It even trended online. Looking back, the signs were always there. He always looked at me with pure contempt. He would mock me to my face, then play the innocent victim, claiming he was just blunt and hoped I would not be mad. Every single time I would pick him up by the collar with one hand, stare at his plastic face and tosses him aside with disgust. But Ruyan always took his side, accusing me of being petty and making him feel guilty. After that stunt, I completely checked out and applied to study abroad. Then came the call. "Hello, Mr. Wen Yuanshin. Congratulations, your application to study abroad has been approved. We will handle the remaining details, so you can head straight to campus." The agent was warm, delivering the long-awaited news. A faint smile finally touched my lips. This was the only good thing that had happened to me in months. Hanging up, I turned around to find a woman standing there. It was my girlfriend and nominal wife, Liu Ruyan. "Who was that?" she asked. "What? School? What are you planning?" Her voice was cold, her eyes filled with suspicion. I shrugged to change the subject. "Nothing, just talking to some kids at the orphanage about at school. Do you need something?" She frowned, her eyes narrowing. She stared at me, trying to figure out if I was lying. "Nothing major," she said. "I just wanted to tell you that today's proposal to Balin was just a rehearsal. He is still young, so don't take it to heart." "A rehearsal?" I scoffed aloud. "You staged a rehearsal in front of a live audience, reporters and cameras at yours? Do you actually expect me to believe that?" "Wen Yuanshin, I came here to explain, and I will only say this once. Know your place. Do not make things difficult for yourself." Her voice turned ice cold, her expression hardening. I looked up, meeting her gaze. She flinched, a sudden trace of panic crossing her face. She had never seen me look at her like this. It was calm, completely numb, devoid of any emotion. But as a powerful executive, she quickly hid her discomfort, acting as if nothing had happened. Seeing my silence, she forced a rare moment of patience, stepping closer to gently take my hand. "Yongshin, why do you always fight with Balin?" she said helplessly. "He is still young, and as an entertainer, he needs exposure and traffic. I know the rehearsal was a bit much, but..." She paused, searching for the right words. While she was racking her brain to defend him, I quietly pulled my hand away from hers. "You know exactly how messed up this is, using our wedding to build hype for another man? You really are generous. And as for him being young, don't forget he is only 1 year younger than us." Thus, leaving her standing there bewildered, I turned and walked back to my room. She stared at my retreating back, feeling very annoyed. It had been ages since she last saw my back. For years I was always the one walking toward her, smiling with flowers in hand. She took a deep breath to shake off the irritation and turned to leave. Hearing the front door click, I knew she was gone. I did not even have to guess where she was going. Straight to her precious little brother Gu Balin. Luckily, my study abroad was approved. I would be out of here soon. They could do whatever they wanted, and it would have nothing to do with me. My love for her had already burned to ash during that public proposal, but she seemed to realize I was hurt, offering to take me shopping today. I figured since I was leaving the country, I did need to buy a few essentials. We drove to the downtown mall together. On the way, she kept glancing at me from the driver's seat as I sat in the passenger side. I leaned back, resting my chin on my hand, watching the city blur past the window. "Let's get you some nice things today. You have not been out in a while." "Yeah," I muttered coldly, not even looking her way. She tried to swallow her irritation and focused on driving. When we reached the mall entrance, she reached out to hold my hand, but I slipped away. I looked at her, my voice flat. "Too many people out here. It is not appropriate." I walked straight inside. She stood there frowning, staring at me. She could tell something about me was different, but she could not put her finger on it. Chasing after me, she reached out and aggressively grabbed my hand. I froze and spun around, glaring at her in shock. "What are you doing? Let go of me." I tried to wrench my hand free, but her grip was tight. "You are my boyfriend, why can't I hold your hand?" she demanded. "Because we are in public. Your proposal is still trending and people recognize you from the financial news. You proposed to Gu Balin yesterday and now you want to hold my hand? Are you not afraid of the backlash?" She went quiet. Then a smug smile spread across her face. I closed my eyes, holding back a massive sigh. "I just do not want to be called the other man," I replied coldly. "You two are way too public. I do not belong by your used my free hand to pry her fingers off my wrist, showing zero gentleness." "Wen Xuanxin, stop," she called out. I stopped and turned around. She looked stunning, her waist-length wavy hair falling over a tight black dress that showed off her perfect figure. But right now her face was twisted in anger, and she stared at me with pure frustration. Her voice dropped, thick with annoyance. Wen Yuanshin, if I take down that trending search, will you let me hold your hand? Before I could even answer, she whipped out her phone and started dialing. Secretary Lee, take down that trend about Balin and me immediately and clarify our relationship. On the other line, her secretary sounded exhausted. President Lu, what exactly should I say? Your relationship with Master Gu is. I mean, she had literally just proposed to him and now she wanted a clarification. We are friends. He is like a brother, she snapped, hanging up. When she looked up and met my disgusted gaze, she flinched. A sudden wave of unease seemed to wash over her. I had no time for her drama. I actually had things to buy for my move abroad. Packing essentials now would save me money once I arrived. While I was looking at jackets, her phone rang. The screen lit up with his name, followed by a stupid heart emoji. What is wrong? He asked. A whiny, tearful voice immediately echoed from the speaker. Sister Ruyan, did you take down our post? He started bawling. Even standing a few feet away, I could hear his dramatic wailing perfectly. It was honestly making me sick to my stomach. She scrambled to comfort him, promising expensive gifts. But then she had to open her mouth and mention she was out shopping with me. He hung up immediately and I knew what was coming next. In less than 30 minutes he showed up. I was speechless. The urge to vomit grew stronger by the second. Seeing my ignore him, he strutted over. Oh, Yuanshin, are you shopping for clothes? Usually the brands just deliver new arrivals straight to our house. Don't you know about that surface? He gasped, fake covering his mouth. Oh, I forgot. You grew up in an orphanage so you wouldn't know. But don't worry, if you ever want brand name clothes, just let me know and I will have them delivered. Or just send me your sizes. I get sponsorships so I can pass down some hand-me-downs. Ruyan just stood there, smiling as she stared at him. No thanks, I like picking my own clothes, I replied. Instantly his face fell into a victim pout as he turned to her. Sister Ruyan, did I say something wrong? Yuanshin looked so serious. Right on cue, she stepped up to defend her precious brother, but I had already walked away and entered a home appliance store. She marched in, grabbing my arm with a cold glare. When Yuanshin, apologized to Balin right now. Her freshly manicured nails dug deep into my skin. I violently threw her hand off and looked down. There were bloody scratches on my forearm. I stared back at the two of them, my face darkening. Apologize? Why the hell should I apologize to him? She noticed the blood, her mouth opening slightly. Hearing my supposedly ungrateful words, she snapped. Balin was just showing concern. Why are you being so hurtful? You owe him an apology. It wasn't my first time witnessing Lu Ruyan's blind favoritism toward Gu Balin, but hearing it now still stung. I didn't bother hiding my annoyance. First, I was busy choosing things I actually liked and didn't hear a single word he said. Second, his constant buzzing around me was incredibly irritating. Sincere or not, when someone doesn't want your attention, forcing it on them is just plain rude. Since he is a celebrity, I spared his feelings by not telling him to screw off. You'd better teach him some boundaries so stays away from me. Leaving them both speechless, I spun on my heel and walked away. I was only out today to stock up on essentials, clothes, daily supplies, electronics, medicines, and most importantly, spices. I have a classic Chinese palate and Western food has never really agreed with me. Going abroad means facing a constant diet of bread and salads, so I even bought a traditional Chinese cookbook. When I got home, I was surprised to see Lu Ruyan already sitting on the sofa. My eyes widened in disbelief. Hearing me come in, she turned around. Seeing my hands full of shopping, her scowl deepened, her irritation flaring instantly. Why are you just getting back now? She demanded. I dumped the bags and began sorting through them. As you can see, I was out shopping. She strolled over, her eyes landing right on the Chinese cookbook at the very top. Something clicked in her mind and her expression softened. Her voice carried a rare touch of warmth. All right, you must be exhausted after shopping all day. Next time you need anything, just tell the maids and let them handle it. My hands froze. This woman was a walking contradiction. She had promised to take me out today, only to abandon me halfway for Gu Balin. Now that I was back from shopping alone, she was suddenly acting caring. Besides, given my actual standing in this household, who could I even possibly command? On paper, I was her boyfriend and the future son of the prominent Lu family. In reality, I was treated worse than the help. Everyone looked down on me, whispering that I was a nobody who didn't deserve her. They claimed that without our childhood connection, a guy like me would never cross paths with high society. It used to hurt. But while it's true I stayed for her, it wasn't because I was desperately leeching off their wealth. Quite the contrary, she begged me to stay. I was an orphan and she was a wealthy heiress. But back when we were kids, a rival company kidnapped her, and through a twist of fate she ended up at my orphanage. We spent 3 years together, from her age 7 to 10, before her family finally rescued her. Grateful for our care, her father generously funded the entire orphanage. We didn't cross paths again until my high school graduation. That year, several of us got into great universities, so we sent a joint thank you letter to the Lias. As a businessman obsessed with public image, her father couldn't resist showing off his charity at a grand banquet. I was chosen to speak on stage to thank them. When I stepped down, she approached me. That was when I realized she was the same little girl who had spent 3 years trailing behind me, calling me brother Xing Xing. At her repeated begging, I agreed to stay. Yet the moment I did, she turned freezing cold, leaving everyone with the impression that I was a social climber clinging to her. Over time, I grew completely numb to their sneers. I stopped showing my face, staying cooped up in my bedroom unless I absolutely had to go out and send silence. She kept quiet too. Just then her phone rang, and a voice I utterly despised echoed from the receiver. It was Gu Bailing. Sister Ruyan, I hurt my foot, can you come over? Hearing that, she slid upright and rushed out without throwing a single glance my way. The door slammed shut and she vanished. She was gone for an entire week. I kept busy. Finalized all my paperwork to move abroad and prepared my exit. Just as I was heading to bed one night, the front door swung open, revealing her supporting a limping Gu Bailing. He looked at me, putting on a sickeningly sweet voice. "Hi, Brother Yanshin." I didn't say a word, my eyes dropping to his heavily bandaged foot. Seeing where I was looking, he quickly offered an explanation. "I sprained it, and since I live alone, I begged Sister Ruyan to let me stay here. If you are, I can leave right now." Before I could even open my mouth, she interjected, "He won't mind. It's usually just the two of us anyway, so it'll be nice to have some company." She looked at me, her eyes flashing a sharp warning. In the past, if she brought him over to stay, I would have thrown a massive fit, but not anymore. I smiled politely at them. "Of course not, we have plenty of empty rooms, so make yourself at home." He froze in surprise, clearly shocked by my sudden generosity and the fact that I was actually smiling. Normally I either ignored him completely or rolled my eyes. He must have realized I was behaving differently and figured I was just putting on a show for her. Deciding to push his luck, he smirked and said, "Well, thanks, Brother Yuanshin. But could you grab my bags from the trunk?" I gave a slight nod and headed out, but not before leaning in to whisper, "Keep talking in that fake whiny voice and I'll throw you out myself." When I hauled his heavy suitcase inside, she was already peeling an apple for him. "Thanks, Brother Yuansen," he chirped, basking in her undivided attention, though his eyes gloated with absolute smugness. I didn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. I dumped his bags in the hallway and retreated straight to my room. She didn't sleep in our bedroom that night, which finally gave me some peace. The next morning I woke up and realized she hadn't left for work yet. Instead, she was sitting close to Gu Bailing, whispering with soft smiles. The moment she spotted me, her warmth vanished. "I have to go out of town on a business trip for a few days," she said coldly. "Take care of Bailing while I'm gone. Don't go bullying him." "Bullying him?" I scoffed aloud. "And why exactly do you think I would bully him?" Her face stiffened. Deep down she didn't have an answer, but her bias made her assume the worst. Of me. After all, my dislike for him was no secret. "Sister, please," he whimpered. "Brother Yanshin isn't like that. I'm sure he wouldn't bully me without a reason." I raised an eyebrow. The actor sure knew how to play the victim. He masterfully implied that I was a bully, just disguised as a nice guy. "Then use this opportunity to bond," she declared, rising to leave. But before she could walk away, I stepped in front of her to stop her. "Wait," I said. "You'd better hire a professional caregiver for him. I'm heading back to the orphanage for a few to check on the director. Her health's been failing lately." At the mention of the director, her annoyance flared again. The old woman's chronic illness was a permanent reminder of her hard life. Meanwhile, Gu Bailing looked panicked. He had planned to make my life living hell while she was gone, only to play the victim when she returned. Now, with me walking out, none of his pathetic schemes would work. I saw right through his micro-expressions. I knew he'd fabricate drama the moment she left, and she would undoubtedly side with him. I just wanted a peaceful final month. If I couldn't beat their drama, I could at least avoid it. Plus, I genuinely needed to say my goodbyes to the kids and director. We walked out of the house together. She went north to the airport, while I headed south. On my way, I loaded up on health supplements, toys, clothes, and school supplies. Returning to the orphanage always brought me a deep sense of peace. It was my only true sanctuary. The director, now 65 years old, looked frail and hunched. When I walked in, she was organizing the children's files. "Sing Xing, what are you doing here?" "I came to see you and the kids, Mom," I said. She pulled me down onto the sofa, studying my face closely. "Oh, look at you, you've gotten so thin," she sighed. "Are you skipping meals again?" It was a reminder that she was the only one who truly cared about me. Smiling to ease her worry, I quickly changed the subject. "Are you sorting through their medical files?" I asked. "Yes, their annual checkups," she replied warmly. "I have to stay on top of their health." Whenever she talked about the children, her eyes shone like she was discussing precious treasures. My eyes welled up with emotion. She had poured her entire life and soul into these kids. After we caught up a bit, I took a deep breath. "Mom, I actually want to stay here for a few days." She looked at me with immediate concern. "Did you and that Lou girl have another fight?" I shook my head, offering a soft smile. "No, I'm actually preparing to study abroad soon. I might be gone for years, so I wanted some quality time with you and the kids." "But what about her?" she asked gently. "Aren't you two supposed to get married?" I swallowed the lump in my throat, forcing my voice to remain steady. "No, Mom, there won't be any wedding." She sighed deeply. "I figured as much," she said softly. "I always knew you two wouldn't last. It had nothing to do with social class, but your personalities were never a match. More than that, she never really loved you. If she did, she'd visit." I bowed my head as a familiar ache bloomed in my chest. It turned out her lack of affection was glaringly obvious to everyone but me. She never showed up with me, nor did she ever defend me from her family's insults. If she had cared, she wouldn't have let her servants treat me like garbage or stood by while others slandered me. And she certainly wouldn't be cozying up to other men. Hurting too much to speak, I walked out to find the kids. With a heavy sigh, he only hoped his future would be brighter. On his 7th day at the orphanage, Wen Yuanshin got a call from Liu Ruyan. She asked where he was, why he wasn't back, and told him to return tomorrow for his answer. She hung up right after. That night he saw Gubeila's new post showing off a gift Liu Ruyan brought back for him. Returning home the next day, I immediately noticed something was off. The walls were covered in posters. There were Gu Bailin's posters and decorations everywhere. Right in the center, ribbons and balloons formed a massive heart shape. Seeing me arrive, a smirk flashed across Gu Bailin's face before he quickly masked it with a warm smile. "Yuangshan, you're back." Today is my birthday and Ruyan told me to invite friends over to celebrate. You don't mind, do you? So that was it. No wonder there was such a fuss. I walked in expressionless, looking around to find my belongings missing. Anything belonging to me or holding memories of Liu Ruyan and me was gone. It wasn't hard to guess Gu Beilin did this, but his boldness meant Liu Ruyan supported him. Then I remembered her calling him late last night. It was past 10 p.m., meaning she rushed back just to celebrate his birthday after realizing he was gone. Nice decorations. Happy birthday, I said. Without waiting for his reaction, I walked straight back to my bedroom. Stepping inside, I saw my things were gone. The bed had clearly been slept in. Even the photo of him and Liu Ruyan on the wall was missing. Gu Beilin followed me inside. Brigang Wangjin. I forgot to tell you, I've been staying in this room while you were away. I glanced at him with pure disgust. Was this guy seriously that pathetic, begging to be a homewrecker? Seeing Wen Yuanxin show the anger he wanted, Gu Beilin was thrilled inside but kept up a pitiful act. Yongshin, are you angry? I'm so sorry. If it bothers you, I'll pack up right now. Please don't fight with Ruyan because of me. What's going on? Why are you bullying Beilin again? Hearing his tears, Liu Ruyan rushed in, pulling him behind. No, Ruyan Yuanxin didn't bully me. You're misunderstanding him. Gu Beilin stammered. Beilin spoke with timid hesitation. I took his room, so he's upset with me. Liu Ruyan understood completely. She gently comforted Beilin first, then turned her gaze toward me. In the blink of an eye, her tender concern turned icy cold. I let Beilin stay here. You weren't around anyway, so why leave it empty? Besides, this room has the best sunlight and ventilation. His foot was injured, so I let him recover here. She rambled on, taking all the blame just to shield him. I wasn't an idiot. I saw right through her. But if they wanted to play games, he didn't mind playing along. So did you sleep with this guy? Wen Yuanxin, Liu Ruyan roared, staring at him like he was dead. I'll say it once, Beilin's is just a brother to me. If you keep talking nonsense, don't blame me for being ruthless. So she hadn't shown her ruthless side in 7 years? In that moment I actually wanted to see it. This is our bridal home and our marital bed. You brought him here and let him sleep in our bed. How should I react? Hearing this, Liu Ruyan froze. Panicking, she didn't know what to say. As if she had forgotten this was their bridal home. She knew Wen Yuanxin was an orphan who desperately craved a family of his own. From the start she promised we'd be together forever, with our own home and children. She sounded so certain back then. But 7 years later she'd given him nothing. She wanted to explain but didn't know how. Before she could think, the person behind her reacted. Guvlin dropped to his knees with a heavy thud. Straining his voice, he sobbed uncontrollably, stammering out his explanation. Yongshin, you've misjudged us. Ruyan and I are completely innocent. Please don't fight over me. I'm so sorry. I didn't know this was your bridal room and bed. Realizing what was happening, Liu Ruyan rushed to pull him up. But Gu Beilin refused to budge, claiming he would stay on his knees until Wen Yuanxin forgave him. Furious, Liu Ruyan glared at Wen Yuanxin. What is wrong with you? Do you have to ruin everyone's mood to be happy? Beilin didn't know. It's you so petty. Can't you be generous for once instead of always being jealous? It's sickening how you overreact whenever another man gets close to me. Although I didn't love her anymore. Hearing someone I once loved say this for another man still brought a sharp pain to my chest. Fine, I'll give you what you want. I'm leaving. I quickly packed up and walked away from the place I once called home. On departure day, I double-checked my belongings. Finding nothing left behind, I zipped up my suitcase. It was 9 a.m. and my flight was at 3 p.m. If everything went smoothly, it would be daytime when I landed. With a few hours to spare, I decided to grab a bite and play some games to unwind. The thought of leaving this city behind filled me with joy, but my happiness didn't even last 3 minutes. A sudden ringtone shattered the peace. I frowned in disgust at the name flashing on the screen and hung up. But she called right back. He knew her too well. If he didn't answer, she'd keep calling forever. Even if I turned off my phone, she had the means to locate me in minutes. I couldn't mess up at the very end. Steeling myself, I answered, "Where are you?" After weeks of silence, she suddenly chose to care. Suppressing my annoyance, I asked, "Is something wrong? Did you forget what day it is?" She sounded shocked by my cold response, her tone turning irritated. I checked the date on my screen. "I have no idea what you mean. If that's all, I'm hanging up." "Wait." Her anxious voice crackled through the speaker. "Did you really forget, or are you just throwing a tantrum?" Before I could reply, she continued. "Today is our 7th anniversary. Where are you? I'll pick you up." Our 7th anniversary. I pinched the bridge of my nose, surprised he had been entangled with her for 7 years. It felt like a lifetime. But I really had forgotten. Ever since I resolved to leave, nothing about her mattered anymore. It was only natural to forget. Surprisingly, she still remembered and even called to remind me. "No need," I said. "I'm busy today, maybe some other time." As I was about to hang up, an elderly voice came through. "Yuangxin, there's a small gathering at noon. Aren't you coming back?" It was her grandfather, the family patriarch. During my 7 years with her, I rarely interacted with her grandfather, but he was the only one in her family who treated him decently. Well, decently meant normal, neither overly warm nor entirely cold. He would smile, ask about my life, and inquire about our relationship. To my surprise, he was with her right now, talking about a family banquet. I had never attended their family events before. Why invite me now out of nowhere? Did they sense my plans to leave? If they decided to stop me, I'd never get out of this city. "Hello, grandfather. I'm sorry, but I have things to handle and can't make it. I'll visit you another time if you don't mind." I hoped that would end the conversation, but Liu Ruyan's cold voice cut in. "I'm sending you the address. Come immediately, or I'll have someone fetch you." I had no choice. Whether I liked it or not, I had to attend. After a long silence, I took a deep breath to suppress my frustration. "Fine, I'll be there soon." The moment she hung up, the location arrived. It came with a message: "Dress formally." Resigned, I opened my suitcase again, pulled out a light gray suit and caught a cab to the family mansion. It took over half an hour to. I never understood why wealthy people insisted on living in such remote places, as if it made them so superior. Complaining silently, I followed the servant inside. The mansion was built against a quiet mountain. After walking for 10 minutes through endless corridors, Wen Yuanxin finally saw her standing at the entrance waiting. Upon spotting me, her cold expression softened slightly. I couldn't tell if she was exhausted but she seemed different after weeks of silence. We didn't speak. Following behind her, I noticed her glancing back at me. I had no idea what they were planning, but since I was here, I had to play along. Step by step, as I followed her into the main hall, the chatter died down. Everyone stared at me and I scanned the room in return. Some faces were familiar, others were complete strangers. Then he spotted Gu Bailin in the crowd. First, she led me to greet grandfather, who welcomed me with a gentle smile. He patted my shoulder and said, "You're finally here." Unsure of his meaning, I simply nodded politely. Sensing my tension, he whispered, "Don't be nervous. After today, live well together. It is finally over." "It's finally over," I repeated in my head, wondering what he truly meant. More guests arrived over the next half hour. At 11, she stepped onto the stage. Clearing her throat, she spoke into the microphone. "Welcome to the family banquet. I have two major announcements today. First, I am officially taking over the family sex." She paused, looking at me with a rare smile on her face. "I want to introduce someone very important to me." She pointed directly at me. "Introducing me," she announced. "Wen for warmth, Yuan for distant, Xing for star. My boyfriend of 7 years, and my future husband." Hearing this made my skin crawl. I could feel everyone's curious, probing eyes locking onto me, scanning me up and down. I looked up at Lu Ruyan and caught her staring back. For a split second our eyes met and I saw a completely different side of her. No, actually it was the sweet warm girl from my childhood who used to follow me, calling me her Xing brother. I had no idea what had happened to her over the last 10 days, but she felt like a stranger. Seeing me space out, she stepped off the stage and walked over, stopping just 3 feet away. Suddenly she pulled out a small box. Opening it, she looked at me with pure sincerity and said, "Wen Yuanxing, let's marry." In that instant my mind completely exploded. What was going on? How did things even get to this point? What had happened during those 10 days? What did I miss? As I stood there for trying to process a response, a loud splash shattered the silence. Gu Bailin cried out. Everyone whipped their heads around and saw that Bailin had somehow fallen into the pool. Instantly Ruyan bolted toward him. Despite wearing towering heels and a tight evening gown that made it hard to walk, she stumbled and scrambled, sobbing as she rushed to his side. She dove straight into the water and dragged him out. While the crowd rushed over to fuss over them, I quietly slipped away. I didn't realize someone in the crowd was watching my lonely, resolute retreat. Soon the two were rushed to the hospital, and the party collapsed. Leaving her house, I hailed a cab and checked into a hotel. I grabbed my bags and went straight to the airport. The moment I boarded, relief washed over me. I stared out the window as the city I'd called home for years shrank, blurred, and finally dissolved into nothingness. Fading completely from view, I was finally free. After a 10-hour flight, the plane touched down safely at the capital airport abroad. I got off, followed the crowd, and spotted the staff from the agencies waiting to confirm my arrival. With a smile, I hopped in their car. Meanwhile, night had fallen back home. Ruyan was still at the hospital, keeping vigil by Balin's bedside. Today she had finally taken over the Lu group, securing her voice at home and the power to fulfill her old promises. She never expected this to happen. What's worse, I still hadn't called her. As she hesitated over phone, debating whether to ring me, Balin stirred. "Sister Ruyan," his voice was barely a whisper. Hearing him, she leaned in quickly. "Balin, how are you? In pain? Should I call a doctor?" She held his hand, her worry clearly genuine. Balin wondered. If she cared so much, why did she want to marry me? His mind raced with questions he couldn't ask. I'm fine," he rasped, coughing slightly. "Sister Ruyan, I ruined your proposal today." She looked down, her lips pressed into a tight side line. "It's okay, just get some rest," she said softly, rising to leave. But Balin caught her wrist. "Sister, please don't go. Can you stay with me?" Looking at his pale, sickly face, she relented and sat back down. She couldn't bring herself to leave. She knew he had caught a severe cold from overworking and getting caught in the rain. She had originally told him to rest and skip the party, but he had insisted on coming, claiming that he couldn't miss her most important day. Touched by his dedication, she had agreed to bring him along. Balin was discharged the next afternoon, and she personally took him home before heading back to her own place. She assumed that after her grand proposal, I would have forgiven her and would be waiting at home. But when she opened the door, the apartment was dead silent and completely empty. Panicked, she searched every room, but I was nowhere to be found. Only then did she accept that I hadn't returned. But where could I have gone? I only knew a handful of people in this city, and none of them were close enough for me to crash with long-term. With a sinking feeling, she tried my number again. The automated voice replied that the number didn't exist. Refusing to believe it, she dialed twice more, then tried from another phone. Still a dead end. When she turned to WeChat, she realized I had blocked and deleted her. Staring at the glaring red exclamation point and the cold system alert saying they weren't friends, she was baffled. Why would I do this? She tried resending a friend request, only to be told the account didn't exist. She checked my profile page and gasped. I had completely deleted the account I'd used for over 10 years. My sudden total disappearance left her entirely lost and confused. Just then, she noticed an unread message in her personal inbox. She clicked it, her eyes widening. The message was brief. "Ruin, it's me. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. I wanted to say goodbye in person, But you're always busy and honestly you probably didn't want to see me anyway. This seemed easier. Please don't look for me. I'll be fine. I wish you a happy life. Ruyan stared at the screen, hoping it was all a bad dream. She read the email over and over, blaming her sleep-deprived eyes. Timestamp was 3 p.m. yesterday. Exactly when she was keeping Balin company at the hospital. The truth finally sank in. I was breaking up with her. She had never imagined we would ever end. The very concept of breaking up felt alien, almost impossible. That night she didn't sleep a wink. She paced the house searching for any sign of me, only to realize something chilling about the massive apartment. Despite living together for 7 years, not a single trace of me remained. She realized that after our last major fight I had packed a few things and left, never truly returning. But I couldn't have cleared out everything so quickly. Unless I had planned my departure long ago. Once that thought crossed her mind, it shattered her composure like an explosion. Her mind raced, and her rationality dissolved into pure panic. Why did I leave? She couldn't comprehend why I would do this to her. Desperate for answers and finding no reason for the breakup, she called her assistant first thing the next morning to track me down. Sitting at her desk, she squeezed her hands to her forehead, murmuring my name with closed eyes. After what felt like an eternity, her assistant knocked and entered. "President Liu, we found something." She snapped, her eyes open, staring coldly. "Speak. Where is he?" she demanded. Mr. Wen had been staying at a hotel. He checked out at 2 p.m. and booked a flight abroad. He's likely out of the country. Abroad? If I were still local she could find me, but now I was overseas where her family had zero connections. Tracking someone down internationally would require a fortune, and it was like searching for a needle in an ocean. Given her fragile new position as head of the company, spending massive resources on a personal search would invite trouble from the board. But she refused to just let me go. "No, I won't let him leave me," she muttered. If she couldn't spend money, maybe a targeted search would yield better results. She racked her brain for my close friends, but could only think of the orphanage director, mother whom I treated like family. Without wasting a second, she rushed down to her car and sped toward the orphanage. The hour-long drive took her barely 40 minutes as she slammed the gas pedal. Stumbling out of her car, she saw Mother standing by the gates, looking as though she had been waiting for this exact moment. A wave of shame hit her. After all, she too had been cared for by Mother years ago, and now she was here to demand answers. "Mother, do you know where Yuan Xing is?" she asked. Mother remained silent, looking at her with a heavy sigh. "I don't know where he is, but I know you're over. Please don't look for him. Xing has suffered enough. Just let him go." Those words cut Ruin like a knife. What did she mean, suffered enough? Was she saying that being with her was a punishment? How could anyone say that? "What do you mean by that? You know where he is, don't you?" Ruyan demanded, her eyes bloodshot. "If you know, you'd better tell me, or..." Before she could threaten her, Mother cut her off with a sad smile. "Tell me, what kind of person was Xing in your eyes?" The sudden question felt completely unrelated to why she had come, making her pause. Why ask that now? Yet as she searched her mind, she realized she had no answer. It should have been a simple question, but the words caught in her throat. Deep down, she was terrified of what Mother would say next. Clenching her fists so hard her nails bit into her palms, she stood in silence. After struggling for a long moment, her lips parted slightly, but she ultimately chose to stay quiet. She believed that as long as she kept silent, she wouldn't lose. But her stubborn silence meant nothing to Mother, whose next words shattered her remaining emotional defenses. "Have you ever seen Xing cry?" Mother asked. Ruyan froze. She desperately combed through her memories. She had known me for 10 long years, yet she realized with a jolt that she had never once seen me shed a tear. 10 years. How many decades does a person get in a lifetime? Trembling, she gritted her teeth. "What are you trying to say?" She didn't even notice her own voice shaking. Mother sighed softly. "He came to see me about 2 weeks ago." 2 weeks ago? Ruyan did the math. That was exactly when she was away on her business trip. The very time I had said I wanted to visit the kids and Mother. It hit her like a physical blow. My escape hadn't been a sudden whim. I had planned to leave her long before then. She did not speak, only staring blankly at the elderly woman opposite her, waiting for what she would say next. The director's eyes suddenly went completely hollow, as if she had fallen into a deep memory. She murmured, "Xing came to visit us and we talked about so many things. He mentioned that he was going to leave. But as for where he was going, he never said." Ruyan pressed anxiously. The director shook her head. "No, but when he spoke of leaving, his whole being seemed incredibly happy. Then I asked him what would happen to your relationship if he decided to leave." In an instant, Ruyan's heart leaped right into her throat. She desperately wanted to know the answer. Before Wen Yuanshin planned to leave, how did he actually view their relationship? How had he truly seen their love back then? He simply said, "We should separate." Those 2 words felt like a heavy wooden club violently striking Ruyan's head, making her mind spin, her entire vision turn completely dark. And then, he just started to cry, yet his tears soaked a massive patch of my clothes. "I do not know what happened between you two. I only know you made him miserable and let him suffer. I raised him for over 10 years, yet I have never seen him so utterly heartbroken." At that moment I knew he did the right thing. Choosing to leave and putting this toxic relationship behind him was his absolute best choice. Ruin probably guessed the truth by now, but she refused to admit it. Or rather, she was simply to face the truth. "No, you are lying. You must be lying. I treated him so well and I never let him suffer." As Ruyan spoke, her confidence crumbled, and her voice slowly faded to a whisper. The director just stared at her, expressionlessly, as if watching a petulant child throwing a tantrum. Her icy gaze was like a sharp blade piercing straight into her heart. I regret it so much now, the director suddenly said, leaving Ruyan completely frozen in her tracks. It was a remarkably simple statement, yet the look in the director's eyes was filled with deep disgust and regret. If I had Sing would suffer so much by your side, I should never have accepted you back then. Or when Xing wanted to leave with you, I should have forced him to stay. You took my brilliant dazzling star and turned him into something dim and completely lifeless. All of his pain stems from you. That is why I regret it so much. Her words were incredibly soft, as casual as asking if he had eaten yet. Yet they crashed down on her like a towering mountain range, crushing her so heavily that she was in too much pain. Cry out or escape. Ruin parted her lips trying to speak, but not a single word would come out. It felt as though a giant hand was squeezing her throat, slowly choking the very air out of her body. She wanted to speak, to breathe, to beg for mercy, to apologize and to ask where he was, but the director gave her no chance. Having said her piece, she ignored her and turned to go back inside. Closing the heavy orphanage gates, she cast one last look at her eyes filled with bitter resentment and helplessness. Do not ever come back here. I believe the only person who welcomed you here is already gone. With that, she shut the door. To Ruyan, this was no ordinary gate, but the final barrier to ever seeing Wen Yuanxin again. Sadly, no matter how desperately she cried out, the door never opened again. Ruyan returned home utterly devastated. She stood at the front door, repeatedly pressing the doorbell. The maid who came to answer was already grumbling, fully expecting the person outside to be Wen Yuanxin returning. Stop ringing. What took you so long? Why couldn't you come home earlier? A grown man with no job, yet you caused so much trouble running around with other women. I have no idea how our young mistress ever saw in you. Next time, come back early or else. Before she could finish, she swung the door open and froze. Ruyan never expected that merely knocking on her own door at night would lead to this, to her accidentally overhearing these insults. Was this really the kind of life Wen Yuanxin endured at home every single day? At that realization, her aura shifted instantly. Her gaze toward the maid turned piercingly cold, devoid of. Terrified, the maid quickly apologized. Young mistress, I am so sorry. I did not know it was you. Please come in. So when I am away, is this how you treat him? Ruyan asked coldly. The maid trembled, utterly lost for words. If Rouge actually loved Wen Yuanxin, they would never have dared to speak so rudely. But having worked in the Liu family for so many years, she knew. She saw Ruyan's attitude toward Wen Yuanxin very clearly. The mistress was always cold to him, even kicking him out recently. Yet here she was, defending him with such a displeased look on her face. Could it be because Wen Yuanxin was still her boyfriend on paper, so she felt obliged to stand up for him? As a maid, she lived by reading the family's expressions, and this sudden shift made her unsure of what Wen Yuanxin truly meant to her mistress. Is my question really that hard to answer? Ruyan's icy voice cut through the silence, making the maid shiver instinctively. She carefully weighed her words, explaining stumblingly, Young mistress, you misunderstand me. Mr. Wen was not very kind to us when he lived here. He was always finding faults and ordering us around. He constantly nitpicked. Although we are servants, he never gave us any respect, so we gradually grew to dislike him. Ruyan frowned. Thinking back, she realized she truly did not know what Wen Yuanxin was like at home. Though they had been together for 7 years, most of her time was spent at the company with family or keeping Gu Bailing company. She had barely spent any time on Wen Yuanxin. She realized she barely knew him at all. Then why didn't you tell me before? Instead of silently enduring and badmouthing him behind his back. The maid gasped in terror. No, we only complained occasionally, we never badmouthed him, Ruyan sneered. I heard everything clearly at the door. If you dare say that to his face through a door, what do you say behind his back? How nasty must your words be when he is not looking? With that, Ruyan pushed past her and entered. It was past 11 in the evening, and most of the servants had already retired to bed. Having nothing to do, Ruyan decided to call everyone down. 5 minutes later, Ruyan stared at the group assembled before her. Sleepy-eyed and dressed slothfully, they showed absolute disregard for discipline. After a tense silence, Ruyan spoke. I hear Wen Yuanxin used to bully you all at home. Is that true? Hearing this, the servants snapped awake. Though they worked here, they knew very well who held the true power in this household. And though Wen Yuanxin was Ruyan's boyfriend, she barely ever visited him or spent time eating with him. To them it always seemed that, to Ruyan, Wen Yuanxin was just a disposable toy to be discarded on a whim. Combined with the news that he had been kicked out, they knew he was now completely despised by Ruyan. Between a discarded boyfriend and a wealthy boss, they naturally chose the boss. Assuming Ruyan wanted details of his misbehavior, they saw an opportunity. They eagerly began to chime in, throwing Wen Yuanxin under the bus with fabricated lies. Ruyan listened in shock, never realizing her boyfriend had lived under such conditions. Ruyan knew Wen Yuanxin well enough to know he was incapable of such malice. Suddenly the director's words echoed in her mind, about how much Wen Yuanxin had suffered under her roof. The servants' blatant disrespect made it clear they looked down on him. Yet Ruyan had hired these people to care for him. This meant their cruelty directly mirrored Ruyan's own neglect. Once she realized this, Ruyan's aura turned freezing cold. She leaned back on the sofa, arms crossed, her eyes so sharp they could cut like glass. She stared down the servants, her eyes dark with unreadable fury. Mistaking her silence for anger toward Wen Yuanxin, they assumed their gossiping had worked. They fell silent, waiting for her to blow her top. Why stop? What else did he do? Ruyan asked quietly. One maid spoke up. Mistress, do not worry, we are used to it. Since he is kicked out now, we servants did not suffer too much. Suffer? Hearing that word again sent a sharp, agonizing stab through Ruyan's chest. Yes, mistress, we are used to it. The maid who had opened the door piped up, "Since you rarely visit, Mr. Wen was home alone. He was likely lonely, so it is normal he had a bit of a temper." Her earlier grumbling was indeed genuine. Ruyan never came unannounced. Usually late-night knocks only meant when Yuanshin was returning. Everyone else had keys. They had instinctively assumed it was when Yuanshin again, letting their mouths run wild with nasty remarks. Ruyan did not even want to waste breath on them. Tired of their excuses, she stood up, looked at them, and asked coldly, "So you claim Bibi bullied and tortured you, but now that he's gone you're letting it slide, is that it?" Though confused, they nodded reluctantly. Getting her answer, Lu Ruyan smiled coldly. "Good, pack your bags and get out." Sitting back down, she added a single word now. "Pack your bags and get out immediately." Shocked, one brave servant dared to ask, "Miss, why are you firing us? What did we do wrong? Do I really need to spell it out?" She sneered. Glaring at the servant, she said, "I know exactly what Wen Yuanshin is like. Did you think my absence made me blind?" She pointed to the corner. "There are cameras everywhere. I saw everything. I will verify your claims. If they are true, you can seek better employment. But if you lied, I will personally guarantee that no one in this industry ever hires you again." At those words, their reality shattered. "Please, miss, we were wrong." One Sue begged and the rest instantly followed suit. "We made a mistake. Please, just give us one more chance." But they weren't fools. The Liu family paid top dollar for easy labor. Most days they did whatever they wanted while Wen Yuan took care of himself. They had barely contributed anything to his care. Watching them weep and beg, her eyes grew cold. Just as she suspected, these wretches had been abusing Wen Yuanshin behind her back, using her name to torment him, making him believe he was utterly worthless to her. That was why he finally chose to leave. She swore she would never forgive anyone who hurt him. "So you refuse to leave? Then I will have to use my own methods to remove you." Terrified, the servants knew her methods were far beyond their endurance. Realizing they still had a brief window, decided to scramble. She watched them rush to pack and flee into the dark. Suddenly the massive house fell dead silent, leaving her sitting entirely alone on the sofa. A painful realization struck. Back when she neglected him, had he sat curled in some dark corner, just like this, enduring the suffocating loneliness while waiting for her to arrive? She sat in silence all night, feeling his pain for the first time. Exhausted and sleepless, she dragged herself to the office. One look was all her assistant needed to know. She had been up all night. "President Liu, are you okay? Why not rest today? I can handle the office and call you if needed." She shook her head. Though born privileged, many doubted her back then. She had survived countless sleepless nights, endless business proposals, and forced networking drinks just to secure her throne. She believed that only by holding power could she build a safe, perfect home for him. Yet now that she had succeeded, he was gone. It was devastating, like climbing a mountain only to find no one to share the view. No one to share her joy. Assistant Li, yes, President Liu. He stared at the pale, exhausted woman behind the desk, looking ready to collapse. "Tell me, did I do wrong?" He froze, caught off guard by her vulnerability. After a long awkward silence, he replied gently, "No ma'am, you only wanted to give him the best, that was your promise. And he would have been happy to hear it." She smiled bitterly. "But the man I promised is gone. What is the thought of succeeding alone? Was I really that blind? Did I neglect him that much?" Startled by her words, the assistant hesitated before asking quietly, "Do you truly want the honest answer?" She looked up and nodded heavily. "To be honest, President Liu, if you hadn't repeatedly said he was your long-term partner and the love of your life, I would never have believed it, even seeing you now." "Why?" she asked, carefully, choosing his words to be gentle yet direct. Sensing his hesitation, she urged him on, making it clear she wanted the truth. "Just say it. I won't be angry." Taking a deep breath, he finally admitted, "Honestly, it feels like you never truly loved him. At least to an outsider it never showed." "That is impossible. I love him more than anyone," she protested fiercely. She refused to hear that her love was a lie. But the assistant sighed. "Your actions, however, tell a different story. Even to us it looked like you only offered him cold neglect and half-hearted attention." She froze, completely blindsided by how others viewed her relationship. "Explain yourself. How did I not love him?" "True love takes time and effort," he answered. "It means showing up when they need you most, offering comfort and support. But with Mr. Wen you barely saw each other once a week, and when you did meet it was just a rushed dinner before you walked away without a word. You never asked about his daily life or his needs. You kept him hidden from your world. Aside from your family, did anyone in your social circle even know he existed?" A sudden memory pierced her heart. Early on he had asked to meet her friends, but she had dismissed him, claiming she was too busy with work. She had even refused to let him bring lunch to her office. "To be honest, President Liu, to everyone else, your partner never seemed to be Mr. Wen, but rather Mr. Gu Bilin. Why? Because you spent all your time with him, showered him with gifts, shared dinners and flew out to visit him on business. Everyone assumed he was your true love. You even proposed to him once. Did you ever do any of that for Mr. Wen?" The question hit her like a physical blow. Her chest tightened as if her heart were being crushed. Unable to find any words to defend herself, she silently waved him away. The crushing weight of her regret, combined with days of running on empty, hospital vigils and skipped meals, took its toll. Deprived of sleep, her body finally gave out and she collapsed in her office. When she opened her eyes, the harsh, sharp smell of hospital disinfectant stung her nostrils, clearing her foggy mind. "Ruyan, you're awake. How do you feel?" a voice asked. It was her mother, sitting by the bedside holding her hands. "I'm fine," she tried to mutter, but her throat burned with a dry, searing pain. Immediately a glass of warm water appeared. Looking up, she saw Gu Bailin. "Ruyan, you scared me to death. Work shouldn't come before your health." Do you realize terrifying your collapse was? Though his words were scolding, his eyes brimmed with genuine concern. Sipping the water, she managed a weak smile. I'm okay, Balin, go tend to your things, I'll be fine. Gu Balin hesitated to leave, but her mother intervened. Go on, Balin, I'm here with her, she is in good hands. With no other choice, he walked away, looking back reluctantly at every turn. Once he was gone, her mother's warm expression vanished. Alright, spill it, what happened? Knowing her mother already knew about Wen Yuanshin, she didn't pretend. Mom, he left, she murmured. So? Did yourself collapse into this pathetic state all because of some man? Her mother's voice was calm yet sharp with deep disappointment. Do you love him that much? Closing her eyes, she whispered a soft agreement, only to hear, funny, I never noticed. When he was bullied in the past, you never intervened. We all assumed you were just playing with him. Why did everyone doubt her love? Was her sincerity so invisible to the world? Mom, do you think that too? Do you really think I didn't care? Her mother blinked in surprise. The woman on the bed looked hollow and broken, entirely stripped of her usual cold, flawless elegance. A quiet hush settled over the room. After a long pause, her mother sighed. No, but your love was so quiet, so sparse that neither he nor we could see it. Who could have guessed that when he first arrived at our home, you were the one desperately chasing him to play? You literally begged us to let him stay. Out of respect for those 3 years he protected you in the orphanage, and because of your endless pleading, we finally relented. After that you claimed you loved him, but back then he had only been in our house for 3 short days. We naturally assumed he used some cheap tricks to make you so obsessed with him. That is why we refused, and honestly we even resented him. Yet later on you showed everyone how deeply you loved him. It was the kind of devotion that absolutely anyone could see. And he treated you incredibly well too, we saw it all. Our Liu family is wealthy enough, so we never needed you to enter a political marriage. We only wanted you to find someone you truly loved, and who loved you back. That alone would make us happy. Later you two went to college together, always visiting us during holidays. You probably have no idea, but during the first 2 years of your relationship, we actually hired people to keep a constant eye on him. We were absolutely terrified that his affection was just an act. We worried he was only after your family fortune, but eventually we realized his love was completely genuine. Even when he married into our family as a live-in husband, and his old friends from Ornage openly mocked and despised him for it, he simply brushed it off. He did not care at all. He just wanted to stay right by your side. He also frequently visited the orphanage, bringing gifts to the children and the director who raised him. After seeing his consistent behavior over the years, we realized he was truly a decent young man. We honestly believed you two were a perfect match. But then, or more precisely, the moment Gu Balin returned, everything between you two fell apart. Tell me, Ruyan, who do you think was the one who changed? It was rare for Liu Ruyan to sit quietly and listen to her mother say so much, but hearing that final question made her freeze. Instantly all the remaining color drained from her already pale face. Who else could have changed? It was her, of course. After her mother left, Liu Ruyan lay staring at the ceiling of her hospital bed, replay after replay of those words echoing in her mind. It was all so clear now. When all was said and done, she was the one at fault. She was the one who played favorites. She was the one who completely ignored Wen Yuanxin, foolishly believing he would never actually leave her side. She had been so incredibly arrogant, assuming a tiny bit of affection, money, and attention was enough. Could keep a person bound to her forever, but she forgot one critical thing. Wen Yuanxin was a brilliant, proud man with his own strong convictions. The moment she was discharged from the hospital, she headed straight to the family mansion. She was determined to find out exactly who it was, who had been secretly abusing and humiliating Wen Yuanxin behind her back. Yet when she stepped into the ancestral home, the grand halls were completely empty, save for her grandfather sitting alone. The moment the old man looked at Liu Ruyan, he knew exactly why she had come. Stop searching, he said gently. The person you are looking for is not here. Liu Ruyan looked up in surprise, asking, Grandfather, how did you know I was searching for someone? The old man offered sauce, patting the cushion next to him to gesture for her to sit. I know everything that happened. Tell me, do you regret it now? Are you filled with regret? Liu Ruyan kept her head lowered, letting out a soft, painful whisper of agreement. Then who exactly did you come here to find? A sudden wave of panic washed over her. She realized she did not even know. Everyone living here was her family. How could her own have treated Wen Yuanxin poorly? But if they had not, why had Wen Yuanxin pleaded with her so desperately to move out back then? To this day she could still vividly feel him grasping her hand, begging her, Ruyan, please, let's move out. It is just too uncomfortable for me to stay here. She had no idea what kind of discomfort he was referring to back then. All she knew was that his eyes were filled with such desperation, pleading, and pure humility. That was the sole reason she finally agreed to move out. Grandfather, she whispered, are you telling me that there is no one here for you to find and the culprit you want is not here either? The old man replied. He pointed toward the window and added, the person you are looking for is both extremely far away and incredibly close. So close you never even noticed. Instantly an indescribable and suffocating sensation rushed from Liu Ruyan's chest straight through her entire body, making her feel physically sick. Are you saying the person who hurt him is me? The old man did not say a word. He simply reached out and gently stroked her hair, his silent answer speaking volumes. The truth was undeniable. Just how many horrible things did I do to destroy him? I am truly unforgivable. Seeing his beloved granddaughter crying so hysterically, the old man felt a deep ache in his own chest. Think about it carefully, he advised. Find the absolute root cause of all this misery. Only after you clear away all of this self-inflicted trouble should you go search for him. Perhaps then he might find it in his heart to forgive you. Lu Ruyan nodded fervently, gave her grandfather a tight embrace and turned to leave. But after taking only 2 steps, a voice called her back. Turning around to face her grandfather, Lu Ruyan asked softly, "Grandfather, is there something else you need? I have something here that I think you should look over. It might be of some help to you." With those words, the old man stood up and walked slowly toward a desk nearby. He picked up a thick manila envelope lying on the desk and handed it over. "Take this, take it home and read through it carefully. Once you have seen the contents, everything will make sense. From there, the choice is entirely up to you." Lu Ruyan had no idea what was sealed inside. But seeing the grave look on his face, she reached out and accepted it. After leaving the estate and getting into her car, she bypassed her home and drove straight to the office. Locking herself inside, she pulled a USB drive from the envelope and plugged it directly into her computer. Clicking it open, she found a security camera recording. The footage was from the exact day of her public proposal. As she watched herself speaking those grand words, she noticed Gu Bailin standing a short distance away. Suddenly, and completely on his own, he deliberately threw himself into the deep end of the swimming pool. The camera then caught her panicking, completely losing her composure as she scrambled over and dove in to rescue him. Finally, the footage zoomed in close on Wen Yuanshin's face. Throughout the entire chaotic scene, Wen Yuanshin had merely stood there, perfectly still. He was staring toward the pool, a brief flicker of profound sadness crossing his face, followed quickly by intense disgust and revulsion. He was thoroughly disgusted. Was he disgusted by her, by Gu Bailin, or perhaps by both of them? After watching the spectacle for just a few agonizing seconds, he used the chaotic crowd as cover, turned on his heel and walked away in the opposite direction. While everyone else was rushing frantically toward the pool, he was the sole person walking away. His retreating figure looked incredibly isolated, frail and weighed down by a heavy sadness. In that single moment, she understood exactly why her grandfather had given her this footage. With trembling hands, she reached for the paper files inside the envelope. The moment she read the very first page, she froze in absolute shock. The files contained a detailed report about Gu Bailin's late older brother Gu Baiwang. It was an official investigation into his fatal car accident. Surprisingly, the medical report showed that he had consumed peanuts right before his death. Gu Baiwang had suffered from an extremely severe peanut allergy, but his symptoms were highly unusual compared to others. Instead of instant hives, his allergy triggered a brief period of intense breathing difficulty, followed by total physical paralysis, and eventually severe hallucinations. In other words, his crash was likely no accident at all. Someone had deliberately fed him peanuts to cause the fatal wreck. They had fed him peanut-laced food on purpose, deliberately triggering a severe allergic attack that left him completely helpless behind the wheel. The sole reason Lu Ruyan had always treated Gu Bailin with such immense kindness was because Gu Baiwang had placed a desperate final phone call to her just moments before his tragic death. In that call, he had begged her to look after his little brother. Gu Bailin and Gu Baiwang were only 3 years apart. Their parents had a toxic relationship, ending their 6-year marriage in divorce, when Gu Bailin was just a toddler of 3 years old. Afterward, both parents quickly started new families and went their separate ways, completely abandoning the boys. In reality, Gu Baiwang had raised his younger brother entirely on his own. While he was technically just an older brother, he had always acted as something much more. For all intents and purposes, he was a devoted father. Lu Ruyan had always believed the brothers shared a beautiful, loving bond. Now she realized how wrong she was. Gu Baiwang had indeed loved his brother unconditionally, but Gu Baiplin felt nothing but bitter resentment in return. According to the damning evidence in her grandfather's files, Gu Baiwang's fatal allergic attack was actually triggered by a home-cooked meal prepared and delivered by none other than his beloved younger brother Gu Bailin. Just a few minutes after finishing that toxic lunch, Gu Baiwang received her call. To this day, she could still vividly remember the circumstances of that fateful afternoon. She had just joined the family company back then, young and incredibly naive. Most of the corporate executives openly dismissed her, and some went out of their way to mock her with passive-aggressive comments. During those difficult times, it was almost always Gu Baiwang who stepped forward to defend her. He was a brilliant prodigy who had graduated from university at just 19. Her father had spent a fortune to recruit him to the Lu Group, specifically tasking him with mentoring her. She only learned the truth about his hire much later. During their brief time working together, Lu Ruyan had fallen deeply in love with him, but Gu Baiwang always kept a professional distance, gently reminding her, "We have a strict working relationship. Any rumors of boundary crossing would only ruin your reputation." Back then she could sense that he harbored feelings for her too. Yet out of respect for her high social status and to protect her valuable reputation, he chose to suppress those feelings completely. Then came the day she had to go on a business trip with her father. But right as they arrived at the airport, she realized she had left a vital contract behind. In a panic, she called Gu Baiwang and begged him to rush it over to her gate. It was that single phone call that sealed Gu Baiwang's tragic fate that afternoon. He had just eaten that peanut-laced lunch prepared by his brother. Overwhelmed by sudden paralysis while speeding toward the airport, he lost control and crashed. For all these years, Lu Ruyan had carried the crushing guilt, believing her own foolish carelessness in forgetting that Folder had killed the man she loved, and forcing him to make that fatal trip. But the shocking truth was entirely different. Gu Bailin had sneaked into his older brother's office earlier and intentionally hidden the contract. Only after she and her father had safely departed for the airport did he place the folder back on the desk. He framed it perfectly to make it look like Gu Baiwang was the one who had carelessly misplaced the vital papers, forcing his brother to rush out the second her phone call came. And right before that, Gu Bailin had already made sure to feed him that poison-laced lunch. Gu Baiwang never once raised his guard against his own little brother. The entire tragedy was a cold, calculated setup. Gu Bailin had planned every single detail on purpose. He wanted his own brother dead, but Liu Ruyan could not fathom why on earth he would commit such a horrific act. Why would he do that? Gu Baiwang was his flesh and blood, his biological brother. Consumed by a mixture of shock and burning rage, she stormed out of her office to confront him. Hearing that she had come to see him, Gu Bailin was absolutely thrilled at first. But when she slammed the pile of incriminating evidence directly into his face, his smile shattered. Absolute set in as he realized his dark secret was out and his luxurious life was over. Why, Gu Bailin? Tell me why, she screamed, tears of rage in her eyes. He was your brother, your own flesh and blood. Why did you do this, Bailin? Gu Bailin stayed silent, then burst out laughing. He laughed so hard tears streamed down his face. Yes, he is my brother, but so what? Just because he is my brother, does he get to control me and run my life? He was a child prodigy, the golden boy everyone praised, a straight-A student drowning in trophies. But I am not him. He thought we were the same, and wanted to clone himself. What was I supposed to do then? Gu Bailin clutched his hair, tormented by agony. Liu Ruyan stared at him in absolute disbelief. At this stranger, he was nothing like the lively, sun-drenched Gu Bailin she remembered. Suddenly a memory flashed back, what Gu Baiwang had once told her about this younger brother of his. He said Bailin was a bit slow and not very bright but adorable, the most precious person in his life. Swallowing hard, she asked, Bailin, did you know your brother was sick? Sick? Bailin looked up in shock. What are you talking about? He had kidney failure. He kept it from you, didn't he? Seeing his blank stare, she knew. Back when your brother got diagnosed, he juggled treatments, ran the company and still looked after you. I asked why he did not hire help. He said you hated strangers, feared the dark and thunder, and needed him to tuck you in. That is why he rushed home every night. You thought I knew your habits cause I cared? No. Right before your brother died, he shared a memo detailing everything you liked and disliked. You felt controlled, but he was terrified that once he died no one would love or protect you. He forced you to grow strong, grit your teeth and learn to survive in this world. He even begged me to watch over you on his deathbed. And yet you murdered him. Gu Bailin stood frozen. From the moment she mentioned his brother's illness, his entire mind had gone numb. Tell me why. Why did you do it? Bailin desperately wanted to scream but his voice was trapped. It was only after Liu Ruyan slapped him hard that he finally choked out. I wanted to escape him, yet I could not survive without him. Because he loved you, I hated you. I hid your files to make you look foolish, but over time I fell for you too. I have loved you for years, way longer than Wen Yuanshin ever did. But you only had eyes for my brother. He was too brilliant, a height I could never reach. I just wanted to get close to you. Was that a crime? So you murdered your brother for that? I did not, Bailin screamed. I only wanted to teach him a lesson and get revenge for his endless control. I never expected him to deliver those files himself. I grabbed him but he shook me off. He was my brother. I hated him but I never wanted him dead. Yet he still died because of me. Do you think I did not suffer? I wanted to die with him but you watched me constantly. You promised to stay forever, which was my only reason. Keep living. Yet in less than 2 years you fell for Wen Yuanxin after just 3 days. How could you betray my brother like that? Liu Ruyan took a deep heavy breath. Wen Yuanxin and I spent 3 years together in an orphanage. Without him I would be dead. Bailin froze. He knew they were both orphans but never realized they shared the same shelter. The Liu family was so close to that orphanage, how did they miss her? He assumed she grew up far away. Suddenly a dark realization struck Liu Ruyan. So Wen Yuanxin was that your doing too? Gu Bailin smiled and nodded. Of course, I pulled a lot of strings to find that place and ship him off. Hearing this, Liu Ruyan's face contorted with raw disgust. What else did you do? Bailin chuckled. What could I do? Just took photos of our intimate moments and sent them to him, teasing him a bit, that is all. Merely that. Those words made her blood boil. So, you ordered the house servants to bully him too? Gu Bailin nodded casually. Yes, I did it all. Liu Ruyan closed her eyes and took a deep breath, fighting to control her rage. When she opened them, her gaze was dead, empty of any emotion. Why are you looking at me like that? Bailin snapped. You should hate me, despise me. Why look at me with such indifference? She knew she and Gu Baiwang were his entire world. Whether it was love or hate, he just needed to matter to them. But now Baiwang was dead and her heart was empty. Losing his only anchors broke him completely. Meanwhile, in a capital university classroom, students were gossiping. Hey, did you hear? Gu Bailin got locked up for murder. Wait, who is Gu Bailin? He's a major idol back home, one classmate explained. Super handsome and incredibly talented. Who would have thought he'd be a cold-blooded killer? It is honestly terrifying. They shoved their phone forward. Look, it says he murdered his own brother. What kind of sick grudge drives someone to do that? Hearing the word brother, Wen Yuanxin shuddered. Ever since Bailin's name came up, he had been listening intently. Now learning that Bailin had killed his own brother, Liu Ruyan's first love, sent a chill down his spine. How young was Bailin back then? Not even an adult. How could he harbor such hatred? Do you know who his brother was? The gossiper teased as the crowd leaned in. Gu Baiwang, the genius who won that global youth brain championship. He was a rare prodigy, yet his brother ended him. My mom actually cried when she heard the news. She called me a lucky idiot and smacked me. Vusa Sin's mind drifted back. He remembered Gu Baiwang well and had always admired how brilliant the young prodigy was. Knowing Liu Ruyan and Baiwang had dated, he had thought they were a perfect match. He never imagined the genius would meet his end at the hands of his own flesh and blood. He searched the domestic news. It turned out the Liu family had exposed Balin. But weren't Balin and Ruyan close? Why would she turn him in? Was it for revenge? Did she sacrifice him to avenge her first love? He dug deeper online until he found an insider post. It claimed Balin grew resentful of his brother's endless success and control. Driven by jealousy and a forbidden obsession with his brother's lover, Balin committed the ultimate crime. Reading this, a cold sweat broke out across Wen Yuanxin's back. He knew Balin loved Ruyan but never imagined it was this extreme. If he could butcher his own brother, he was capable of anything. It explained the photos Balin sent him, capturing intimate moments with Ruyan. Perhaps because Ruyan showered Balin with affection, Balin never saw him as a real threat, which was why he had spared his life. The realization sent shivers down his spine. Thank God he escaped when he did. A psychopath who would murder his own flesh and blood wouldn't hesitate to eliminate a rival. Having Balin locked up was a public service. Loving Ruyan was simply too hazardous. He felt incredibly relieved that he had fallen out of love and fled. Hey Yuanxin, aren't you from Jiangcheng too? Do you know the Liu family? Hearing his name, Wen Yuanxin snapped out of his thoughts and looked at his classmate. Shaking his head, he replied, "No, I am just an orphan. I don't have the connections to know people like that." Fearing they had hurt him, the group quickly apologized. He waved them off, then stared back at his screen in growing dread. Walking after class, an unsettling feeling crept over him. He felt like he was being followed. Yet every time he spun around, the street was clear. Quickening his pace, he bolted inside, locked the door and peeked through the window. Down in the crowd, he spotted a familiar figure. It was Liu Ruyan. He was not surprised. He always knew that with her immense power and resources, finding him would be effortless. Taking 3 months to track him down was long enough, but since Liu Ruyan did not seem to want a face-to-face meeting, he just ignored her. From then on, every so often he felt like he was being followed. Sometimes it lasted a single night, other times 3-5 days. Occasionally it was just a fleeting sensation of being watched before it vanished. Wen Yuanxing knew exactly what was happening. It was all Liu Ruyan's doing. As long as she did not bother him, he could play along. 3 years later, Wen Yuanxing returned home. The moment he spotted her waiting at the airport, he did not feel a single thing, refusing to even spare her a glance. Though they had not met in 3 years, he knew she was always nearby. How many times? Over 100 easily. It was quite surprising, really. So, once again he acted like she was invisible and walked on. Undeterred by the cold shoulder, Liu Ruyan quickly caught up and grabbed his hand. Wen Yuanxing looked back and frowned, his face tight with annoyance. "Is there a problem?" Liu Ruyan parted her lips, but the words failed her. She felt like she did not even have the right to say welcome back. Neither of them was foolish. He knew exactly how many times she had watched over him during those 3 years, and she knew that he was fully aware of it too. They were not exactly strangers, yet far from familiar. Seeing her silence, Wen Yuanxing did not lose his patience. He simply pulled away with a gentle tug, easily breaking free from her grasp. Ignoring the woman staring blankly at him, he headed straight outside and hailed a cab to his hotel. He was only back for a competition and would leave immediately after. The organizer provided lodging for all the contestants. Once inside his room, Yuanxing did a quick sweep, checking for hidden cameras, cleanliness and any safety hazards. Satisfied that everything was secure, he finally began unpacking. Finding he still had plenty of time, he decided to visit Dean Mom. He walked out and waited by the curb only to see a sleek black sports car pull up right in front of him. The window rolled down to reveal Liu Ruyan. "Get in," she said. "I know where you are going." Wen Yuanxing took a step back, refusing. He clearly wanted absolutely nothing to do with her. Liu Ruyan did not get angry, only gazing at him quietly. "Do you really hate me that much? You won't even share a ride?" He remained silent. He quickly walked over, opened the door of a waiting cab, gave his drop-off details and urged the driver to start. The driver slammed on the gas but soon noticed something odd. Glancing in the rearview mirror, he saw an incredibly expensive car tailing them closely. If they crashed, selling his own cab wouldn't even cover a fraction of the damages. Panicking slightly, the driver hit the gas to speed up. Singh noticed the tailing car and knew exactly who it was. He reassured the driver, telling him to slow down and stay safe, as the car was following him anyway. "Just ignore them," he added. The driver was surprised and looked closer. His passenger was undeniably handsome, dressed in designer clothes and carried an air of effortless wealth and refinement. A person like this clearly had money, and anyone chasing him in a sports car must be loaded too. "Hey, you look pretty wealthy," the driver chatted. "Why not just take your own ride?" "My car?" Xiu Xing smiled faintly. "No, I just know the person behind us. They are the truly wealthy one." Having driven for years, the cabbie immediately caught on. "An admirer, huh? They seem incredibly devoted. Why not give them a chance?" It was just idle gossip, but the question fell into a heavy silence. After a long pause, he answered, "We are not right for each other." Sensing the deep melancholy in his passenger, the driver wisely shut his mouth. Silence reclaimed the cab until they finally pulled up to the orphanage. Wen Yuanxing paid and stepped out. Liu Ruyan slammed her brakes, desperate to follow him, but then she remembered Dean Mom's harsh warning to never return. Her feet froze right at the entrance, her eyes glued to his familiar retreating figure. Making a U-turn, the cab driver spotted her lingering there and chuckled. "Give it up, kid, he is just not that into you." Liu Ruyan whipped her head around. "What do you mean by that? The guy told me himself. He said you two are not a match. Stop clinging to it and find someone who loves you." She hurried to the window, demanding answers. The driver, happy to gossip, repeated exactly what Wen Yuanxing had said. He sighed and looked at her. "Listen to me, young lady. You are clearly wealthy and beautiful. Even if he is handsome," he said, "it is not a fit. Do not force things, love is not something you can demand, find someone who cherishes you. Lu Ruyan bit her lips, speechless. As the cab drove off, she stared at the fading taillights and whispered, "But he used to love me, he loved me more than anyone." Yet deep down, she knew that was all in the past. When Wen Yuanxing knocked and walked inside, Dean Mom was washing clothes. She froze, staring at him before gasping out, "Xingxing, is that really you?" The man standing before her was a far cry from the boy who had left. Back then he was fragile, painfully shy, thin, and always kept his head down, barely speaking a word. Now he stood tall, radiating confidence and warmth with a gentle smile on his face. Years of regular workouts abroad had transformed his frame, giving him a lean, athletic build. Seeing his transformation, Dean Mom beamed with joy. She wrapped him in a tight hug, murmuring how wonderful it was. They sat down to talk and he shared updates about his studies and life abroad over the last 3 years, explaining why he had returned. She showered him with endless praise. Suddenly his stomach growled loudly, making him realize he had not eaten a single thing since his flight landed. With a warm, doting smile, she told him to relax while she cooked. The thought of her food made him incredibly happy. While she was busy in the kitchen, he went to check on the kids. They had grown so much, the boys taller and the girls more beautiful. At first they stared in confusion, until someone asked hesitantly, "Are you brother Xingxing?" He smiled, "Yes, I am. I came back to see you all." In an instant, the children cheered and swarmed around him. He was absolutely thrilled. After chatting and asking about their schoolwork and health, he pulled out a thick envelope of cash and handed each child 500 yuan. He had prepared this money in advance, making sure there was extra for any new arrivals. The kids were overjoyed, and a radiant smile spread across his face. When Lu Ruyan stepped inside, she was greeted by his dazzling, happy smile. It had been years since she had seen him look so genuinely radiant. She had hesitated to enter, but the cabbie's words rekindled her hope. He used to love her so deeply. Surely she could win him back if she tried hard enough. While he was here, she needed to create opportunities to talk, interact, and make amends for the past. "Hey, why are you here again? Who said you could come in?" A little boy spotted her, stepping defensively in front of Wen Yuanxing with pure hostility. "What are you trying to do? Drive brother Xingxing away again? You are such a horrible, wicked woman." Lu Ruyan stared blankly as the other children quickly rushed to shield him from her. Ever since he left, she had visited the orphanage to deliver supplies, acting as his proxy. But she never came inside, always leaving the gifts at the gate. At first they thought she was kind. But when they discovered she was the one who drove him away, they threw her gifts into the street and banned her. She wanted to explain but had no words. The children refused to listen anyway. Fearing for their well-being, she began sending others to deliver the goods while she watched from afar, seeing the kids smile and thank the delivery people. She could have been the one receiving those happy smiles and grateful words, but she had thrown it all away. Wen Yuanxing sighed wearily, "Just leave, I do not want to see you." "I hope you are not mad at them," Wen Yuanxing told the children. "Let us go, the director has cooked for us, let us eat." Watching them leave together, Liu Ruyan felt a deep sense of helplessness. The tournament Wen Yuanxing entered had 5 rounds: preliminaries, intermediates, semi-finals, and the final. Held every 3 days, it lasted half a month. During this time, Wen Yuanxing did nothing but eat, sleep, and design. He barely stepped outside, leaving Liu Ren with no chance to see him even if she wanted to. Left with no choice, she tried to provide better meals for him. To avoid gossip or accusations of bias, she covered the food and lodging for all contestants, but her good intentions backfired. The day before the final, she arranged drinks and desserts. Unfortunately, the fruit delivered was rotten, causing several contestants to get food poisoning, and Wen Yuanxin was one of them. The final was different. The previous rounds allowed preparation, but the final used random on-site topics. Contestants had only 15 minutes to think, plus 45 minutes for draw, amounting to 1 hour, but on stage the contestants looked pale and restless. The judges noticed the strange atmosphere only to learn that many had severe stomach cramps. Everyone was barely holding on. Once the competition ended, they were rushed to the hospital. An investigation revealed they ate bad food, causing mild diarrhea for some and severe food poisoning for others. After a thorough investigation, Liu Ruyan discovered her staff had stolen the budget, replacing fresh ingredients with cheap, rotten ones. They thought they could get away with it on the final day. Wen Yuanxin was discharged the next day. He returned to the hotel to wait for the results, which arrived a week later. Unsurprisingly, he won second place, which made him very happy. But to his shock, the presenter was Lu Ruyan. The moment she stepped on stage, he understood everything. No wonder he was invited to this competition. It was all her scheme. He accepted the trophy with a cold expression, ignoring her completely. In the photo, she smiled while he glared, leaving onlookers confused as to why he was acting so distant. After the event, Wen Yuanxing planned to leave, but grandfather Liu requested a meeting. He could not refuse, knowing he could not afford to offend the powerful Liu family. Wen Yuanxing thought it was something serious, only to realize he was tricked again. They dined at a revolving restaurant by the window. Mid-meal, the old man excused himself, and minutes later, Ruyan appeared. She held a rose and wore a wedding gown. Anyone would understand what was happening now. No wonder they booked a romantic couples table, and ever since he arrived, the old man had been stalling him with pointless small talk. Lu Ruyan dropped to one knee, offering him the bouquet. Nestled right in the center of the flowers was a gorgeous glittering ring. Trying to calm her nerves, she asked softly, "Wen Yuanxin, will you marry me?" Hearing the commotion, the other diners stood up, cheering and smiling warmly. "Marry her, say yes." Wen Yuanxin looked down at the ring. It was stunning, but he quickly looked away. Staring at the woman kneeling, he said coldly, Liu Ruyan, I made myself clear. We broke up 3 years ago. Why put on this show now to play the devoted lover? Her smile instantly froze and the crowd went silent. No, Yuanxin, you misunderstand. I am not pretending. I truly love you. I know I ignored your feelings before, but I finally realized that you are the only one I want. Please believe me, just give me one more chance. Another chance? Did I not give you enough? Wen Yuanxin countered. We were together 7 years. When did I ever deny you? Now you ask for a chance. I am sorry, they are gone. Opportunities are for those who are ready. You failed for 7 years, so you get nothing. He turned to leave. In a panic, she threw the flowers aside and clung to his waist, pressing against his back. Yuanxin, I was wrong. I truly understand now. Please, just look at me once more. Please look at me. When Yuanxin pried her hands off his waist and faced her, Louis, everything is in the past. He had 7 years, but now we are done. Let us part amicably. Do not make this ugly. I never agreed to this, she cried. He laughed bitterly. You never agreed? But during those 7 years, did you ever treat me as a boyfriend? Who else even knew about us? Where were you when your servants bullied me at home? Where were you when I was and slandered? And finally that proposal was meant for me, yet you put the ring on another man. I will never forget you running to him that day. The moment you did that, we were completely finished. Take care and stay out of my life. Wen Yuanxing strode away. That night the video of her failed proposal went viral online. Netizens dug up her past and realized that she was the one who had proposed to Gu Beiling, only to claim they were just friends later. Coupled with the video revealing a 7-year relationship and a 3-year breakup, the timeline proved she proposed to Gu Beiling while still dating Yunxin. Gu Beiling was indeed a homewrecker. Everything made sense now, the neglect, the bullying and his cold expression at the award ceremony. Anyone would be disgusted to have such a shameless ex hand them a trophy. Furious netizens roasted her online and even dragged the jailed Gu Beiling back into the mud for another round of public shaming. The next, when Yuanxing packed his bags and headed to the airport, Liu Rian intercepted him, looking pale and exhausted. Yuanxing, do not worry about the online comments, I will handle it. He gave a cold laugh. It does not affect me, though your own situation looks rather grim. She smiled. Are you worrying about me? He instantly frowned and checked the time, seeing he was about to board his flight. He said, rude, and a breakup is final. Do not seek me out or stalk me. I absolutely despise the feeling of being constantly watched. He paused, wanting to end this once and for all. He sent her a file. Read this, you will understand. I hate dirty things. But before she could reply, he grabbed luggage and walked away. Opening the file, her world shattered. It contained countless intimate photos of her and Gu Beiling kissing, cuddling and even sleeping together in bed. He was shirtless and she was sleeping soundly in his arms with visible marks on her skin. Attached were their flirty chat logs detailing all of their secret hookups. Finally, there were screenshots of Gu Beiling taunting Wen Yuanxin. She realized they could never be together again. A wave of crushing despair surged from her chest, paralyzing her and chilling her to the bone. She was too numb to cry. Looking up, she saw his plane taking off, roaring right over her head, staring at the disappearing aircraft. In his heart, he silently whispered, "Goodbye, Wen Yuanxin, I wish you health and happiness." In this side story, when Liu Ruyan saw Sin Yuanxin again, his heart raced like never before. He watched the tall man in a black trench coat pushing a suitcase, walking straight toward him. He assumed 3 years was enough for Wen Yuanxin to move on, hoping he could win him back. But he never expected the man to pass by with a completely blank face. Stunned, Liu Ruyan turned like a machine. Seeing the man keep walking away, he lost all his composure. He lunged forward, grabbing Wen Yuanxin by the arm. He felt the man stiff and instantly touch. A second later, Wen Yuanxin turned around, his eyes completely hollow and empty. His face showed zero emotion. In a flat, chilly voice, his lips parted to utter 2 simple words. Something wrong? He wanted to reply, to say so much, to ask if he was doing well. Did he miss him? Yet he couldn't utter a single word. Even a simple welcome back choked in his throat. He knew Wen Yuanxin only returned for the competition and that contest. He was the secret investor behind it. 3 years. 3 years was too long. He couldn't wait anymore. He had to lure him back this way. Yet he could barely survive those 3 years. He was about to break. But what about their 7 years together? How did Wen Yuanxin survive all those years? The more he thought, the more guilt consumed him. In seconds, his mind flooded with memories, flashing like a slideshow. Yet he still lost Wen Yuanxin, but it was fine. Since Wen was back, he would seize every chance to get close to him again. To do this, he followed Wen everywhere. He followed him to the orphanage, overhearing his chat with the driver. That phrase not meant to be felt aimed at them. But he would try everything to make them fit. He waited outside the orphanage for hours, but Wen never emerged. Wen hadn't returned. If he hadn't seen him again, the distance might have helped him numb the longing. But things were different now. He had seen him. It was like living in deep darkness. You accept it because you have never seen the light. You get used to it. But once a brilliant beam of light pierces the shadows and then vanishes, the peace is shattered. When the darkness returns, it brings panic, anxiety, endless longing, and a desperate need to find that light again. He was that man in the dark for 3 years, and Wen was his light. Having seen it, he couldn't let go. He chased him, even stepping back into places he swore he would never visit. He followed him, watching from the shadows. For 2 weeks he tried to get close, only to be rejected repeatedly, until he was on the verge of breaking. Lost and broken, he could only weep. His family gathered around, gently asking what was wrong. He spilled everything, begging them to help him find a way. His family urged him to look at the root of the problem, to think about what Wen loved most. He knew the answer. During their 7 years together, Wen had asked more than once, "When are we getting married?" I want a home with you, a home of our own. He wanted a happy marriage, a joyful family. That was exactly what he wanted too and what he had once promised to give him. But he did something foolish. He tricked him again, bringing him to a place where he held all the cards. He proposed, but Wen rejected him coldly. Refusing to give up, he begged for a reason. How could someone who loved him so much suddenly stop? How could he just vanish without a word? He had so many questions, so much resentment, but deep down he knew his current suffering couldn't match even 1/10,000th of what Wen had endured over those 7 years. Wen was truly furious. It was the first time he had ever seen him lose his temper, screaming hysterically, letting out everything that had happened to him. No wonder he was so angry and wanted nothing to do with him. Just hearing him speak felt suffocated. Yet he was the one who had caused all that suffocation. Wen had relied on love to hold on, but love is a finite resource. In the end, one side completely drained the other. Between them, it was his coldness and neglect that over 7 years completely consumed all the love Wen had to give. He had seen how Wen loved him once, so passionate, so intense. Now that Wen didn't love him, he couldn't feel love from anyone else. No one else's love could ever compare to what Wen had offered. But unfortunately, that was in the past. Now all he could offer Wen was his most sincere blessing. Wen, I wish you peace and health for the rest of your life, and happiness.